Hello, I am back with more doom and gloom for you today as I keep tackling my synopsis of reading Project 2025 so you don't have to. Yesterday I covered the joyous task of talking about how they're going to gut our educational system, and today I'll be talking about how they want to gut our healthcare system. Just another day in paradise of this hellscape we've created for ourselves. There is a lot to cover in this healthcare section, so I'm going to break it down into some subcategories. I'm going to start with Health and Human Services, which our lovely friend with a brainworm, RFK Jr., is gonna help reform. So the main MO here is that Health and Human Services should protect the fundamental right to life and stop focusing on LGBTQ equity, subsidizing single motherhood, disincentivizing work, and penalizing marriage. Specifically, programs within HHS should affirm and teach fathers based on biological and sociological understanding of what it means to be a father, not a gender-neutral parent. Also, all policy should never place the desire of adults over the right of children to be raised by their biological fathers and mothers who conceive them. To me, that reads that it will be harder to remove children from households that are abusive. They also want HHS to reverse the decision to redefine sex to cover gender identity and sexual orientation. And I quote, "The Secretary's anti-discrimination policy statements should never conflate sex with gender identity or sexual orientation. Rather, the Secretary should proudly state that men and women are biological realities that are crucial to the advancement of life sciences and medical care, and that married men and women are the ideal, natural family structure because all children have a right to be raised by the men and women who conceive them." We're setting ourselves up to deny queer people the right to have a family. You know, whether that means they'll just make adoptions and foster care for those people harder going forward, whether that means they won't allow surrogacy for those couples, I don't know, but they left the wording vague on purpose so that they can interpret it how they want to in the future. Some of this is made clear by the statement that HHS should repeal the 2016 regulation that imposes sexual orientation and gender identity non-discrimination conditions on placing adopted children in forever homes. And the rest of these are kind of a free-for-all, so I'm just going to rattle them off. They want to repeal all dietary guidelines, especially those that are watered down by environmental concerns. They say HHS needs to restore and enhance conscious protection regulations that allow medical practitioners to participate in federal healthcare programs without being compelled to provide sex changes. They also want to restrict HHS's ability to declare indefinite public health emergencies, and they want to investigate HHS's colluding with big tech to censor dissenting opinions during COVID. They also, from this time period of the pandemic, want to rescind the legal analysis that authorized HHS to impose a moratorium on rental evictions. These people are evil. Like, why is that a concern? And then most mind-boggling of all, they say HHS should work with the Department of Education to ensure that female college athletes who become pregnant are no longer pressured to obtain abortions. Okay, moving on, we're going to the Centers for Disease Control now. They stipulate that no mask or vaccine mandates will be allowed going forward. CDC officials should only be allowed informative statements and not prescriptive ones. They claim the mRNA vaccine is too dangerous for children, especially when they are at little to no danger from COVID. And then come these just absolutely kooky quotes. "Excess deaths not due to COVID-19 skyrocketed because of forced lockdowns, isolation, vaccine-related mass firings, and colossal disruptions of the economy and daily rhythms of life." Yeah, that's what people died from. And, quote, "The CDC can and should make assessments as to the health costs and benefits of health interventions, but it has limited to no capacity to measure the social costs or benefits that they may entail. For example, how much risk mitigation is worth the price of shutting down churches on the holiest day of the Christian calendar and far beyond, as happened in 2020? What is the proper balance of lives saved versus souls saved? The CDC has no business making such inherently political and often unconstitutional assessments and should be required by law to stay in its lane." I just can't, but we knew these people were insane. So next we want to narrow research and development funding to be consistent with American values. What does that mean? It means the Office of Science and Medicine should investigate literature for the effect of abortion on prematurity and breast cancer, lack of evidence for so-called gender-affirming care, and the physical and emotional damage following cross-sex treatment. They also want to eliminate any programs and projects that do not respect human life and undermine family formation, and it should fund studies into the risks of complications of abortion and the psychological benefits of childbirth. They also say that going forward, the CDC must also collect statistical data about abortion, abortion survivors, and abortion-related maternal deaths. They should be required to report the number of abortions, gestational age, the reason for abortion, the mother's state of residence, and the method for each abortion. They should require monitoring and reporting for complications due to abortion and every instance of a child being born alive after an abortion. It's just, I have no words. So they want to collect all this personal data on women all across the country. And yet they also argue that the CDC should end its collection of data on gender identity, which legitimizes the unscientific notion that men can become women and vice versa. So we're essentially going to just eliminate this group of transgender people. They also want to eliminate research using human embryonic cells, and they want to ban human cloning, which, like, potentially good choice. Like, I don't know how I feel about that. But their reasoning is because the male-female dyad is essential to human nature, and because every child has a right to a mother and a father, they don't want human clones. Next, moving into the National Institute of Health, they say that NIH should fund studies on the short and long-term negative effects of sex interventions, including affirmation, puberty blockers, hormones, surgeries, and likelihood of desistance if young people are given counseling. First of all, we already study all these things, but why are you only looking at the negative effects? It's almost like you just want it to be a bad thing. They also claim that the NIH does experiments with aborted baby body parts, say that 3 times fast, and human-animal chimera experiments. See? The NIH oversaw and funded the development and testing of the COVID-19 vaccines with aborted fetal cell lines, which led to the thousands being fired unjustly because of their refusal to vaccinate on moral grounds. And they state that the chickenpox, hepatitis, and MMR vaccines should be redeveloped and free from the moral taint of fetal cell lines and aborted baby body parts. So I'm starting to go along here. I'm going to have to split this into 2 videos. I'm just going to finish with VA stuff, but there is more I want to talk about because this stuff is just so bonkers. So we all know that the VA is consistently underfunded and we do not give veterans their due care. Republicans always make a big to-do about supporting our troops, but when it comes to actuality, they do not do it. So what are their plans for veterans? They want to embrace the expansion of community-based outpatient clinics for veterans instead of investing in unaffordable VA healthcare campuses. What this does is it defers all the costs to the states and localities because these community-based outpatient clinics are already there and they're already overrun, but they don't want to put any more money into this VA healthcare system. On top of this, they want to explore how telehealth can reduce personnel costs across the VA, and they want to aggressively recruit retired physicians who desire to serve veterans. And finally, on top of all this, and perhaps the most concerning, is they want to require VA facilities to increase the number of patients seen each day from 6 to 19 per provider. You are not going to get good health care with those numbers. I'll be back tomorrow with more enraging material. Until then, hope you have a great day in this hellscape.